So guys, we've talked extensively about the impact Marathon will have on Bungie Studios. But today though, I actually wanted to take us under the hood and really analyze what is going to be present in the game come March the 5th, which is literally right around the corner. We'll be talking about all 6 runner shells, plus the Rook shell. We're also going to be discussing cores and implants, as many are pointing to this as being build defining, which goes hand in hand with the 400 plus weapon mods that are going to be present in the game. And all of this information is going to bring us to the Endgame in Marathon, which actually sounds a hell of a lot like a Destiny raid. So without further ado, let's begin. Now first up, let's talk about these shells. Now Bungie's kind of gone back and forth on this. They've gone with runners, but I guess that was a little too close to the hero shooter thing. Now they've moved to shells, which actually makes sense considering the narrative that was dropped during the most recent Vidoc. Now these shells are biosynthetic bodies, each with unique kits. You've got 2 abilities and 2 traits per shell. Let's start with my dear old Titan class, the Destroyer. Now I say it's a Titan because literally it really plays like a Titan from Destiny. It's all about aggressive play, and our first ability is Search and Destroy. You activate shoulder-mounted missile pods that fire heat-seeking rockets. They immobilize runners and deal impact damage. Second is this Riot Barricade, which is really the thing Bungie is showing off over and over, man. Essentially, it's an energy wall. It blocks damage, but it drains energy over time. I primarily just used it for like panic moments, but really good for just tanking damage, and you're just trying to reposition yourself. Now our traits here, you have a thruster ability, kind of like the thruster ability from Destiny, but also semi-Twilight Garrison, as you can boost midair. We also have tactical sprint, which allows us to move faster at the cost of generating heat. Next, we have the Vandal. This is considered the movement god. And essentially for Vandal, if you love movement tech and breaking ankles, this is pretty much for you. Its abilities include amplifying, which overcharges your movement systems, reducing heat buildup for sprinting and jumping while boosting weapon dexterity. You have Disrupt Cannon, which transforms your arm into a blaster that knocks targets away. Bungie has showcased this a number of times. They're quite proud of it. And you can even charge it up for a bigger blast. Now the traits on Vandal includes Microjets, which gives you a double jump, and a Power Slide, which is this supercharged slide that covers massive distance. Next we have the Recon, aka our wall hack class. Honestly, this may be one of those that you always want to have on the squad. This is your own personal UAV, which in an extraction shooter, this is incredibly valuable. The abilities here include Echo Pulse, which sends out sonar waves to reveal enemy locations. You also have Tracker Drone, which deploys a microbot that hunts enemies and explodes and will overheat them. Now the traits here are really cool. You've got Interrogation, which warns your HUD when you're getting pinged. And if you finish an enemy, it pings their entire team. There's the way in which you can kind of chain the wall hacks, which is why if you're running with someone rocking Recon, definitely let them finish. Now the final trait for Recon is Stalker Protocol, which leaves a holographic trail on an enemy whose shield you just broke. Literally the class you cannot hide from. Next, we have the Assassin, our good old rat class. For my stealth players who like to go invisible, which is literally 80% of Destiny 2's PvP, we have our Assassin here for you. Abilities include Smokescreen, which throws a disc that creates a line of smoke, breaking optics. Next, we have Active Camo, which is just straight up invisibility, but taking damage or shooting will break it. Now our traits here are Shadow Dive, which lets you slam a smoke field from the air, and this combos with Shroud, which automatically cloaks you when you enter any smoke field. And if you're like, Cross, that sounds very familiar, sounds like On the Prowl from Destiny. Yes, there's a lot of things that are overlapping. Now Les is convinced that the Assassin class is gonna ruin the game, but again, this is where like the different shells here can counter each other. Yes, you've got an Assassin who can go invisible, but then you have Recon, which can track the Assassin. We'll see though. It is pretty strong invisibility. Bungie's quite proud of this class. And take it from a Destiny player here, Invis is always hell to go up against. Now our next shell is the Triage, aka the Medic. This one is the glue of your squad, the one that keeps everyone alive. We've got Reboot Plus as our first ability, which shoots tendrils to revive down teammates from a distance. We've got Medron, which hovers on your shoulder, giving health and shields. Now our traits include Battery Overcharge, which buffs your gauntlets, breaking shields with battery weapons, which will EMP targets. I really love that this one actually ties into a specific weapon type. Then we have Shareware. This one is huge. If you use a consumable, it then copies the effect to any teammate with a Medron on them. I cannot stress just how valuable this is going to be in team plays. Next, we have the Thief, aka the Loot Goblin. Abilities include Pickpocket Drone. This pings enemies and then uses a whip to knock loot out of their hands. Yes, you can literally steal their loot mid-fight. You've got Grapple Device, which shoots a dart that pulls you in any direction. addition, its traits include X-ray visor, which lets you see containers through walls. And get this, your base stats go up as you fill your backpack. You're literally rewarded for being a loot goblin. Which I'm not gonna lie, fellas, this one might be my class. I may or may not have let Frostbolt and Benny die multiple times because I was too consumed with looting. But that was our graders. And inside a marathon, hell, the more I loot, the better. Now, our final shell is the Rook, our 0 to hero class. This is really if you're just trying to get a feel for the game or if you've lost everything. Essentially, our scav / free kick class. Now, interestingly enough, it's got a great ability here called Signal Mask. This allows you to blend in with UESC AI forces. They literally won't shoot you, which means you can drop in, which by the way, with the Rook, you can drop in at any point in a match, and you can just blend in with enemy AI and then just proceed to scavenge the bodies of previous shells. Look, as someone who made his living off of free kit runs inside of Arc Raiders and doing breach security lockers, I'm down with this, man. I will blend in with enemy AI, I will make them my family, and I will scavenge everything on the map. Now this takes us to where the game gets a bit deeper, and that's in the cores and implants. See, you can modify your shells, and both cores and implants do this a bit differently. Cores are generally designed for one specific runner shell, and they tend to buff or modify the way your abilities work. For instance, a core here on the Destroyer class called the Ankle Breaker reduces thruster heat near enemies, and Bull Rush stops your barricade from draining energy while in tactical sprints. Our core for Recon, called Cluster Payload, makes your drone explode into shrapnel. We also have Early Warning System, which alerts you when a runner is nearby. Next, we have a core on Thief called Case the Joint, which increases the range of your X-ray visor. Then we have the Partner in Crime core, which makes your drone ping hostiles. Even while it's not even being piloted, it'll periodically release a pulse that pings nearby hostiles. Now for Triage, we have No Good Deed. This heals you when your drone attaches to a teammate. Vandal has a core called Adrenal, which reduces heat generation while amplified, and Microjet Efficiency, which gives you an extra jump charge. An Assassin's core, which deals increased melee damage while invisible, and another core, which allows our active camo and shadow dive to recharge more quickly while inside of smoke, literally allowing you to spam it. Now, if you're wondering about Rook, I think it's safe to assume that there won't be any type of core for this one, as this is just our scav shell. Now, this takes us to implants. Now, implants are not shell specific. They can be used by any runner shell, and they grant additional stats as well as a random perk. The highest tier implants also have a bonus fixed perk, such as the Bionic Leg Upgrades V5. This allows you to sprint faster for a short time after leaping from great heights. Now, a random perk roll with this could be Explosive and Melee Resistance, which reduces incoming UESC damage from explosives and melee attacks. Now, let me just show you how this could all come together in a build crafting scenario. For instance, if you were to make like a destroyer build, you can equip these 3 implants. You've got Knife Fight V3, which increases your melee damage, Bionic Leg Upgrade V5, which grants us a speed boost on landing plus damage resistance. We've got Protector V3, which increases shield capacity. Then we can add in the cores. For instance, Myrmidon increases melee damage after using thrusters. An Impact Siphon allows damage dealt to your barricade to return to you as shield energy. So the loop here is literally you fly in with your thrusters, you pop your barricade to tank damage, which heals your shields, and then melee them with that massive stacked damage. Essentially, Destroyer here turns into a tanky brawler. Now, there's actually a great website called marathonthegame.com where you yourself can go and actually kit out your own build. For my Destiny players, think of this as like Light GG or even like D2 Foundry that I'm sure is only going to get better when the game launches. Now, this takes us to weapon mods. Marathon at launch is going to have 8 different types of weapons. Those being assault rifles, machine guns, pistols, precision rifles, rail guns, shotguns, and then finally submachine guns. Now, all of these will be able to equip weapon mods, which will affect stats of said weapons, and some weapon mods will affect the way weapons behave. Now, at launch, there will be over 400 weapon mods to search for. Here are just a couple of examples of weapon mods that affect a weapon's behavior. First, we have the gold mod called Full Blown, which turns your battery SMG into essentially the Needler from Halo. Next, we have a golden silencer mod for your sidearms that will grant you invisibility ability upon getting a kill. And get this, you don't even have to be running the assassin shell in order to do this. For my Destiny players, yes, it's like Rat King. Dude, no lie, fellas. This is honestly crazy how many 1-to-1s we have from Destiny here inside of Marathon. Now, another example of a weapon mod is the Torch Bug Purple mod. Eliminating a hostile causes them to explode. Following that, we have Afterburner, which when sliding with this weapon, reloads a portion of your magazine and increases stability and accuracy. Now, when it comes to how many weapons you can expect at launch, there are currently a total of 28. With these weapons, you'll be using various ammo types, such as medium rounds, heavy rounds, volt batteries, volt cells, and lastly, MIPS rounds, or MIPS rounds. Now, for our pistols, we have the V11 Punch, the C Tactical, and the Magnum MC. For SMGs, we have the V22 Volt Thrower, the Burt SMG, the Bully SMG, and the Copperhead RF. Shotguns, we've got the Waster Combat, the Mizraya 2442, and the V85 Circuit Breaker. For my precision rifles, we have the Hardline PR, the Twin Tab HBR, the Repeater HPR, the V66 Lookout, the B33 Volley, and the Strider M1T. For our assault rifles, we have Overrun AR, the M77, and the V75 Scar, and the Impact HAR. For LMGs, we have the Conquest, the Retaliator, and the Demolition. For railguns, we've got the Vu Zeus and the Ares RG. And snipers, you've got the Longshot, the Outland, and the B99 Channel. Now, I know on the surface right now, if you're a looter player, you're seeing 28 weapons, you're like, yo, that's hardly nothing. But keep in mind, everything here can be heavily modded, which definitely can change the feel of the weapon and its lethality. And these are just the weapons that have been disclosed to us so far. Now, one of the biggest focuses coming to Marathon is going to surround factions, or in this case, factions and contracts. See, we're not just going out fighting for ourselves, although you can. We're also going to be working with 6 different factions. And this is why I think Bungie has such a huge cast when it comes to the VAs here. We've got Arachne, Cyber Acme, Nucleoric, Sekiguchi, Traxxas, and Mida. And yes, that Mida class. Personally, I think Sekiguchi is going to be where I reside. Now, each faction has an upgrade tree, and you gain reputation by doing jobs. Now, this is not a lore deep dive video, although we will be getting to that at some point. But for instance, Mida, they essentially want destruction, and they literally ask you to upload malware to a UESC ship to blow it up. They give you grenades and they give you claymores. Now, as you progress through each of these trees, you'll come across capstones that give you special upgrades, such as being able to disarm claymores. And when you hit the final capstone, you'll be unlocking access to some of the best loot in the game. Things like purple items and even gold items. And in my opinion, the best thing about faction progression is that you'll unlock faction upgrades that give you a boost in your base stats. And these are permanent for the rest of the season. Yes, wipes will be a thing inside of Marathon, but we don't really have full information on how the wipe system is going to work here. Now, the Codex is going to be our go-to when it comes to tracking our achievements, our collectibles, our audio logs, and more. Now, what's cool about the Codex is that the more items you find, the more you're learning about the story of Marathon and the role the items play. But that's not all. Within the Codex, you also unlock different runner skins, as well as weapon skins, weapon charms, stickers, emblems, backgrounds for your runners, and even titles. Now, this takes us to arguably the most important thing, really in any game, but especially here for Marathon, and that's the in-game. The Cryo Archive will be our first in-game map, and this one will be launching with Marathon. Now, Cryo Archive is the first level of the UESC Marathon ship, and every threat you have faced on the other maps will be present here, such as the UESC themselves. Now, let me just say, guys, I may or may not have had a small experience with this one, but what I will say is that you're in for a treat. It's on the Cryo Archive, though, that you're going to want to bring your best loot, your best builds, and arguably your best teammates. This map plays like a heist. You go through 7 vaults, with each one being increasingly harder than the previous one. Now, the really cool thing about this map is that you can expect to solve raid-like mechanics here, which is exactly what we were talking about the other day when I said one of the lead designers for Vault of Glass also worked on Marathon, and this was a big part of what he did. Now, if you're lucky enough to make it to that 7th and final vault, this is where you're going to find some of the best loot, and for my lore and narrative lovers, this is also where you find out more about what happened here. Without a doubt, the game being fun is vitally important. At its most base level, Marathon has got to be a fun game, but I'm really hoping this in-game hits, man. And with the leaks this past week showcasing a rank mode, which is essentially going to require you to have a certain gear score or gear ante to even jump into these areas, you can see the competitive nature that Marathon is trying to target here. Overall, guys, I think the game has got a lot of depth. We've got a lot of items, and this is not even everything. But I hope this gave you somewhat of an overview of what you're getting yourselves into come March the 5th. I will say, as a Destiny player, I'm pretty spoiled when it comes to builds. Granted, I know Marathon is a completely different game. However, I'm hoping that we're going to see some spicy stuff at that high level. I want that loot to matter, which is also going to suck when you lose it, if you lose it. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.